Okay, let's call this meeting to order. Thursday, July 15th for the Oxbridge Building Committee. We have a quorum present, and our guests are David Cravenzola, George Krakowski, Jeff Lamoth, Amy Samuelson, Mike Lynch, and Luke Forshaw. The first item of business was to review the minutes of the last meeting. Unfortunately, I don't have them for you, so we're going to go right to item number 2, which is to review the payment application for payment number 6 for the work done in June. I sent out a copy of the summary copy to all of you. The amount is $2,185,526.54. Is there any discussion, George or David? Do you have any points you want to make for this particular payment?
Nothing specific. We got Capasso with the concrete and slabs, Schenectady Steel, fabricating, erected steel, general trades. A lot of that's submittals, and they did some rails and such. Roofing, same thing, submittals, bonds, spray fireproofing. They started the exterior fireproofing. GDS, they have the materials stored in the parking lot, and then they've brought some on site, and they've been doing the exterior steel studs. Fire rated, that's actually the fire pump. That's been delivered to their shop, and that's in their shop, the fire pump. And then plumbing, HVAC, installing hangers, such on the first and main level. Site work, Sean, they've been doing sanitary sewer storm, backfilling, and that's pretty much it.
Just note on the very first page, it says a summary of the change orders is through June at least was $75,195. Okay. Is that the amount that has been submitted for Dr. Adley to send over to the state?
Yes, the majority of it is. I would have to check, if there was a couple that got processed after, after that. But I can find that number that got submitted to Dr. Adley.
I'm not concerned so much as the number has a document of change orders, which we have to file with the state, but submitted to Dr. Adley for signature. Yes. So that we can forward to the state.
Yes, it has.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So I believe at this point it was I signed it, Dr. Adley has it, and then from there, Slam has to sign it, and then Jennifer Charneski will have to sign it, and then it comes back, back to us.
And you file it with the state, David?
We take care of it. We get it submitted, and then the next step from there is that in some period of time, anywhere from 1 month to 30 months, the state will review it and will render a response, and they may say, of this change, we have deemed the following amount ineligible. They oftentimes they'll come through and say, well, you said all of the money was all the changes were eligible, but we deem a portion of it, and they'll go through the backup, and they'll try to find some reason to say it's ineligible. So then when we get that letter, the superintendent gets the letter, we will formulate a response to that back to the state, either agreeing with them or in defense of that, and we'll copy you on that when we send it in. But the key is to get that. We have to get the change order signed through all the people and in before that 6-month rule. So I think we have, the oldest date on one of those changes is sometime in February. So we have about a month to get that change order fully signed and into the state to make sure we're within the 6-month rule.
Okay, is there a single person that's responsible for shepherding it through all the signatures and getting it out?
Well, I guess on our end, it's I would say it would be George, but again, I'm not sure, who's the one that will get it from Dr. Radley to, say, Jennifer or to Slam. It's somehow we have to get it circulated through everyone and back to us.
Does it have to go to Slam before it goes to Jennifer?
It can go in any order, to be honest with you.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Well, Mike's on the call here, so I'm going to say, Mike, would you make sure that Dr. Adley gets it over to signs it and gets it over to Jennifer Chernesky at the town?
I sure will.
And then that way we can keep the process moving, and then we'll get it back to Slam, is it, or just get it back to you, David, and you'll get it to Slam? I don't care. Just
however, I'd say if you get it to George can get it to Slam.
okay, fine. All right, so I'd like to have this payment. Are there any more? I should ask any more questions about this application for payment from the committee? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the payment of application number 6 in the amount of $2,185,526.54. Do I have a motion?
Rusty,
Motion
yes.
Well, I got Katie for the motion. I'll have Rusty as a second. Is there any more discussion? If none, would you indicate either by raising your hand or saying aye that you approve?
Aye.
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 Are there any abstentions? Are there any nays? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Okay. The next order of business is to quickly go through the project update. It's not going to be in the project update. It's the fact that we had one torrential rainfall last Friday. 6+ inches of rain in 6 hours, a record in Darien. That was the official number. But I guess we recovered from that. We had some foundation wash away, but not too much, which is being taken care of.
Yeah, that was repaired yesterday. They finished that up.
Okay, good.
So that's
So let's
all set.
So let's focus on this report then, George.
Okay, just to go through, we're projecting, 29% complete in the building, 54 in the site work. Allowances, we have funds available, 196,061, and probably have a discussion later about the allowances, and then our contingency, that remains at the 1,428,974.
Before you leave that page, George, I just wanted to, I have a question in general. If you can make that page a little larger, great. In the middle of the page, there's potential and approved budget revisions. And then below that, there are potential and approved contract changes. Could you please give us, or could David please explain what are the differences here we're talking about?
George,
Conceptually.
you want to do it? You want me to do it?
Yeah, you can do it, Dave.
Okay. All right. So the difference there, Kip, is that the budget is our GMP with the town of Darien. That's our contract with you, whereas the construction costs, that's essentially the trade contractor. So really the main difference between those two totals are the things like the contingencies and allowances. So as far as our contract with the town of Darien, it's the construction budget that you're concerned with.
Okay. And budget revisions as compared to contract changes are just conceptually?
Yep. So they both are. So potential just means that it has not gone all the way through the process. It's either something that we know about, just as first being notified of something. So we put a placeholder in there saying that, well, we believe there'll be some level of cost here. We plug that in, and then approved is once it has actually been approved via a change order. That's the difference there. But as far as a budget revision versus a contract change, They are the same exact thing, except that one is affecting our contract with you in the town, and the contract change is affecting our contract with the trade contractors that we engaged with.
So Dave, a good example of that might be the allowances, right, that are built into the GMP contract. So if you use that, it's not a change to us because it's already in the original contract, but it would be a change to the subs, right, with your contract with. Yeah.
That's correct. That's correct. And why we still have to bring those changes before you for those contingencies and allowances, because we are still moving money within the pot of money. You know, if we were to go to the next page there, George, just quickly, just show, you know, where the money will move from. So just so you know that when where George's cursor is, there's a column called original contract. Right in the middle of the page, there's a column called current budget and then original contract. If you were to draw a vertical line down that page and you were to take the left-hand side of it, that is our contract with the town of Darien. And then from the right of that line, original contract, exactly, George, thank you very much. From that line that George drew to the right where it says projected cost is the second to last row on the right, column on the right. That is what we have contracted with our trades for and what you've contracted with us as far as, you know, George, myself, Brian, all that stuff. And then the very last column is funds available. So what that does is it takes our current budget, which is the column just to the left of the red line, and it takes the projected cost, which is the second to last column from the right, and it subtracts the projected cost from the current budget, and that's your funds available, which if you look at the top right corner, that 1.625, that's the funds available within our GMP. And what that is the amount of the allowances and contingency that we have available.
And to Nick's point, you'll you know, because these are a little bit larger than these contract includes like allowances, so that's why you see that number going down. This number would go up, but these would stay the same only because the allowances are part of that GMP. So in other words, our contract with you won't go up with these allowances because these are all part of our GMP. So that's how you see why you see the differences.
Well, I hope that was helpful to me. I hope the rest of the committee was helpful to you as well. That does help explain it. Okay. But by the way, before we continue, who is caller number 2, please?
It's Sean Brown.
Ron, thank you.
And then just cost schedule impact items. You know, primary electrical feed. We've kind of worked through all the bugs, if you will. You know, Eversource agreed to install a new primary feed to the existing transformer. You know, that's due to the fact, you know, you know, we talked about this, they couldn't shut off the, you know, the direct burial cable. So in order us to, you know, do our work safely, you know, we had to, well, we're going to be putting in 2 volts and then, you know, a conduit, and then Eversource is going to have a, you know, a feed to that existing, you know, existing transformer. And then we also, on that part of that work, you know, moved the pole over across Mansfield Ave so we don't have to put it in 2 switch boxes, and then we're going to cross Mansfield Ave and then bring the cable down to the new building. So that work started actually yesterday, going from, you know, the switch fault down below the road and going up the road. Water main revisions. You know, we made some revisions from the 8-inch. We had the original contract actually showed a 8-inch line going down the middle of the driveway, and actually originally showed tying into the existing 4-inch line. Obviously we couldn't do that, so we had the option of tapping a new 8-inch line into the 16-inch main in the street, or running separate 4 and 6-inch lines down the street. But because of some, I don't know, meters, apparently aquarium, the requirement for aquarium is only have 1 meter on site at a time. So like starting September, we're just going to have 1 meter for both buildings, and then we demo the old building, then we'll just have the meter for the existing. So we had to make some revisions to the 4-inch and 6-inch line. So we kind of worked through that. Got that accepted by Aquarian, and actually the valves and the piping and all that showed up today, and that work's scheduled to start tomorrow with the valving. And then the sanitary sewer lines, I guess last week before last, actually it was when the building inspector came out, mentioned that we needed the sewer department to inspect all the sanitary sewer lines. So when we reached out to the public works sewer department, they said that we needed to to pull a permit, and then also that they did not see the the design drawings. So we gave them all the design drawings, all that. They had a couple issues with that, and they actually made some revisions to the piping, because there was some laterals that were less than 1%. And I guess the town standard is 2% pitch on the pipe. But if you have extenuating circumstances like we do, where we have an existing invert in the pump station, and we also had the invert of the new building, we couldn't achieve the 2%. So they said we could go 1%, but not less. So there was a couple of those runs that had to get adjusted to 1%, which meant adjusting the heights of a couple of the manholes and in that. So we did get the permit Monday. They've set the manhole 5 today, well, the other day, yesterday, and then we have like I'm gonna say three pieces of pipe in now. So that's kind of started. Now I just, the inspector, and maybe I'll mention it now, Kip, the inspector was out here. It wasn't Ed Gentile, but a Darren he sent out to inspect. And
yeah, Darren's number 2.
Yeah, and Darren told us that he's going to look. He wants to look at all the pipe installing going in, and which we're saying that we're going to need him out here like every day, even like Fridays and like even some Saturdays, to inspect the pipe so we can keep moving forward. What he was saying that I mean, he would talk to Ed, but he doesn't really feel he has the manpower or all that to do those inspections. And then we threw out the idea of having like a third party, and he was, he wasn't actually. He kind of mentioned having a third party doing the inspections, so that they could be out here every day and even Saturdays. So I did tell him I would talk to committee about that. And then maybe Kip, you could talk to Ed about that, rather than, having them come out every day for inspections. We get, either like Langdon or Banesh to come out, every day and do the inspections for them on that work.
All right, I'll talk to him afterwards.
Okay.
I guess the
Yeah.
overall question with all of this is very busy summer work.
Right.
A lot of changes have had to be made because of Eversource and Aquarian, and now apparently the town sewer. The question really is, can all this get done in time for the school to be reopened with a parking lot available, with access to the school, obviously, with electricity on, given the school's opening schedule?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's 4 weeks. It's an awful lot of work, but yeah, it's we've had, Sean's Lawn started working, 10 hours, 10-hour days and Saturday. So, you know, it should, we'll get it
Okay.
done.
You're on temporary power now, generator power, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah,
everybody
both.
understands. We've cut the power from the main feed because we couldn't, they wouldn't do it for us. So we just said, okay, fine, we're in generator now. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Yep. And then we do have, the propane tank is built and ready for shipping. So we're looking to, ship that and set it the first week in August, and then also pull the primaries that first week in August. So that's about 2 weeks for Sean's Lawn to, do the sanitary, the storm, and the water to get it ready for those two things. And then after that, then it would be, backfilling, grading, and paving and all of that. So that's why I'm saying, as far as inspections on the sanitary, that's going to have to be, on a daily basis, including Fridays and probably, maybe a couple Saturdays. Like this Saturday, we probably want an inspection.
All right.
So
So
I
the
know
issue, I'll talk to Ed Gentile right after this meeting.
okay, because I know, yeah, Darren seemed to be okay with that, and then we're thinking like either Langdon or Banesh, one or the other. I know Langdon, Olivia and Taylor's been out, and they're very familiar with the job and stuff, and they'd be more than capable to do that. Banesh wasn't able to.
Okay.
This is Diane. I have a question, mostly for, I guess, for Amy, but also for you, George, as to whether all these changes have had any implications on any site design. Does it change some elevations or landscape, natural landscape, or any of the parking layout or anything like that? I know there was talk at the last meeting about locating locating the tank in a location where it could be accessed, and I just want to make sure it was being coordinated through to the kind of final design of the landscape, that everything was kind of being coordinated.
Yes, it is, and this is all underground, so it doesn't affect landscaping or parking lot layout or any of that at all. So this is all the it's all underground. This stuff. So,
Right.
Yeah, you talked about
and everything gets run through the design team anyway,
Right.
all of these changes for approval before anything goes. And the one thing that might have changed a little bit is where the fill pipe and vent pipes are on that tank that you mentioned. But that's very minor and it's further away from the building.
right, but it'll still be located in an island.
Right.
Just might move.
Okay.
North south, something like that, but still be located in the island, so it shouldn't affect any of the new parking or anything like that,
Or sidewalk.
or sidewalk or any of that. And then the sanitary lines, those are 18 feet below the parking lot, and the water mains are 5 feet or so. Yeah, Darren went down in that hole. I was surprised.
Right.
So ASIs, just 4 proposal requests issued, 2 ASIs, 8 RFIs, but none that are, they've been, answered and responded quickly. So we're good. PCOs, we had, 5 that reviewed and accepted, change orders written. and then there's none currently with the architect or owner. And, there's 2 PCOs that basically got rejected, but, they'll get closed out, but just kind of waiting some responses from the contractors.
I would just like to add to that, George, that for the committee to understand, one of those rejected potential change orders came from Ferguson, or I think it was Ferguson, looking to put their hangers for the various pipes and stuff in the ceiling, the hangers being attached to the roof. It was going to save them time from putting in angle irons from which to hang things. They went through back to Slam. Slam said, no, the load on the roof has not been properly designed for using hangers as well, and it got rejected. So I think this goes back to what Diane was asking about. All of these changes go through the process of being reviewed by Slam before they're approved. And here's one that was not. It was not approved, and it's been rejected. So they're back doing what they were told to do originally and they had contracted for.
Yeah, they brought the angles and they're hanging their, putting the hangers off the angles.
I just wanted to use that as a story about how the process works. It seems to be working, but we're trying to keep our eyes on all of it.
And then just some schedule activity revisions. We talked about the new primary feed, and then the fire domestic, and then the new electrical feed. So all that's been incorporated into the contract and into the schedule, and kind of resequenced, so it doesn't really show an impact on the on the end dates. Procurement, we talked about that last month. Some of the main items on the procurement. So far, as of now, there aren't, the lead times, kind of in line. We also, resequenced on the procurement for lead time. So we have our air handling units scheduled to deliver 1st of September. Main electrical gear towards the end of November. Roofing material insulation, that's scheduled, August 16th. At that one point, that was, a procurement issue as far as timing. But like I said, we were able to resequence so that, we start our roof in the middle of August, and then, we'll be ready for the air handling units when they show up in September. Propane tank, we talked about. Current and wall storefront material, that's been delivered to Lockheed shop. Started fabricating hollow metal door frames. At the end of this month, it's going to be into Builders Hardware shop, and they'll start building those. So that was another item that they took delivery early. Fortunately, Builders Hardware shop's large enough to accept it, and then they avoided not only the delays in delivery, but the material prices increases. Studs we talked about, and then the flooring the same. Higgins, they released the order. They're going to get the flooring delivered to their warehouse, the end of September. Plenty of time for their install. So, we've been, it's been, keeping track of it, and so far there hasn't been, delivery issues.
Okay, so no material price increase problems that we're going to be facing, or delivery times.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you for that report.
Project summary, site work, continued installation, storm sewer piping, the structures, blocking the retaining wall in the courtyards, and then they started the demo of the parking lot and sanitary sewers, pump station, academic wing, under slab drainage complete. We placed the main level slab, started with the hangers, and we've actually placed the lower slab on C and B. a couple weeks ago, and then started the light gauge metal framing on the main level, and kind of the same with B as well. The slabs have been placed, main level, upper level, or main level, lower level, and then started the framing. In A, continuing forming foundation walls and footings. And then there's one more high wall left to place, which I think they're scheduled to pour it at the end of this week, and then that would be complete for the foundation of A. And Monday, we have Schenectady scheduled to come and start erecting the steel for A.
Okay.
Can I just ask a quick question? Can you please just remind us all of what differentiates part A, B, and C?
Actually, it's if you kind of see on the on the design drawings, they break it up into part A, that's A, B, and C. So like your lower level, part A is the mechanical spaces. That's where you'll see the fire pump and then the classrooms. I mean, the fire pump, the electrical rooms, all your mechanicals in lower part A. So that's the area where all the high concrete walls are. And then C is kind of next to that, and then B, and it kind of, if you go, I guess, counterclockwise around the building, there'll be like C. C kind of goes halfway on that lower level from A, and then we go counterclockwise. So it'd be C is the next part, and then B, and then up top we just have on grade is B. Well, C, B, and A, but it's not. I don't know. I maybe Amy can say it's more design. The engineers and designers broke it up in those parts. I don't think it really.
Yeah, it's nothing more than what fit at 1/8 inch scale on a drawing sheet. And so the labels on the drawing sheets are A101A, A101B, A101C, because parts of the building could fit. And as George was describing, basically the main entrance and office area, and starting to head down the academic corridor for the elementary school is part A. Part B is the preschool, and
Amy.
then C wraps around the back of the academic building.
Amy, sorry to interrupt. George, well, I'm just going to share my screen for a second. You put this graphic together. So this, just to show in a plan, you see that plan on the screen?
There you go.
So the blue area is part C. The orangish red area is part B. And then the green area and this white section here is part A. And obviously there's a lower level stacked beneath it. But that's, again, as Amy was saying, that was the delineation they had given, to be able to fit portions of the building on the documents with a usable scale. So that's how we've delineated the work. And if you look at the planning boards that we're using in our field office, they're differentiated by these areas as well. So that's the graphic.
And later, the assembly wing is actually part D of the floor plan. So that will come later. And you can see it in the key plan on any of the drawing sheets if you ever were looking through on the website.
Right there on the side.
Right. You'll notice the column lines are, and that's kind of how we delineate a lot of what we do with construction and all that, is those column lines.
Right
So
here.
B is the right, that part. So we know B, that's part B, and then A is part A, but that's kind of how we base, the direction of the steel, any type of scheduling, all that is kind of based on those numbers. But at the end of the day, obviously the end user won't see them or use them or anything like that.
Okay, thank you for going over that again. I just wanted to make sure that
Well, George, as a follow-on to Katie's question, then we talk about Schenectady Steel coming back in. They're talking about then doing the steel for the section A, correct?
That's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
that'll be
And
on the high walls.
on the high walls. Yeah.
Yep.
And that A also includes the deepest part that we've got of this structure, which is all of the mechanical rooms way down below. That's why we have those very tall cement walls. Okay.
Correct. Yep. And that's that one wall. That's where we had the washout. It's right
Yep.
there, the slope going from the top to the pit there, where that washout was.
George, you'll have to go back to sharing your screen again because I interrupted that.
I think that pretty much covers it, doesn't it, George?
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. We just have the the CPM schedule and then some photos, and yeah. So yep, that pretty much covers it. So now we've had Multi Vista. They'll come out once a month, and actually, if anybody wants access to that platform, we can give that to them. But it's a platform where they actually post pictures. So they'll come out once a month and they'll go around the site, not only exterior, but they also do interior. And they post pictures, every month, and it'll be at the same, the same view, so that, when you go in there, you can click that view, and then it will show each, show the pictures, for each month. So we started that. So that's what you're going to see. You'll see the picture, and then also, you have the ability to see where that picture's taken and in the view. So we started that, and we can give you access to that platform, so you can go in, anytime and look at, the progress photos. So we have that as well. And, it shows the different views for that. So, that's A looking down towards B. That's B before we poured the slab, and you can see. And, that's it. Is there any other questions?
All right. Thank you, George.
Mm-hmm.
Our next item of business is Nick was going to help try to explain this concept of allowances so it's a little bit clearer for the committee. So as we talk about them from month to month, or in our OAC meetings, we can at least get a picture of what we're talking about and get a good feeling about how it's being used. So Nick, it's all yours.
Sure, thank you. Yes, we briefly touched upon this earlier in the meeting, but essentially the allowances are dollars built into the GMP contract with ONGAP. And so they're for various items identified that we may or may not need. So the money's there if we need it. They'll ask, our approval to spend it when they need to. And if they don't spend it, it goes right back to us at the end of the day. If they do spend it, they will then, write a contract change order to their subcontractors. And that's the whole difference between kind of, the budget versus the cost side of things, our money with ONG and their costs with the subcontractors. So there were several, items identified and not purchased with the bids. And that's, you'll see these carried right here. There's 6 of them. One being, commissioning requirements, labor at the end of the job when they were going to commission all the mechanical units, right? They could track that T&M against it and draw from that. Utility company charges, same thing, they're drawing down from that. So it looks like there was 300,000 originally included. It looks like there's about 176,000 committed. I think the biggest one was the topsoil issue, which was taken care of through that. So that's pretty much the gist of it. I don't know if George, if you have anything to add to that, or
No, I think that's good. Yep.
So yeah, and when these dollars get spent, right, it's not in addition to the GMP, right? It won't be a contract change order to us. So it's already kind of money approved, if you will, from that perspective. So it doesn't increase our overall number there.
Correct.
And again, they're tracked on this report and reported on monthly. And again, when they need to get spent, they come to us for approval. So.
And it also doesn't affect the contingency, our contingency.
Correct, right. Yep.
These are above and beyond our contingency. Okay.
Right, yes,
Yep.
they're
So
right. Yeah, it won't affect the owner's contingency unless, you know, you go over the allowance, then it would follow
Obviously.
the normal change order process. But it's all
Right.
part of the base contract with us, the GMP.
Are there any questions from the committee on this? Okay. Let's move on to the next item of business, which is discuss the ombre pattern of the dark gray bricks on the bus loop. I want to give some quick background on this and then open it up for Diane, Amy, and Sean to talk about. The dark bricks we have approximately, in the design that as it currently exists, about 55,000 dark bricks. Of that 55,000, over 40,000 are to be put on the academic wing in parts in the back around the side of the building, which really are put in as a solid grouping to create breaks of pattern in the wall of the exterior. I never realized that over 40,000 of the 55,000 bricks were really being used around the academic ring. The balance, maybe 3,000 or 4,000 at most, are related to the ombre pattern on the assembly, which is the gymnasium and the cafeteria. The supplier has produced so far 40,000 dark bricks. So we have a choice to make right now if we want to. And that is to say, only make so many more bricks to be able to do the dark brick pattern around the academic wing, or make the full 55,000 to use as the ombre pattern on the gymnasium, the assembly wing. And there's been voices, so it won't cost us anything if we make a change now. It may save a little bit of money because the gray bricks are a little bit more expensive, 10 cents per brick than the others, but that's not a lot of money either way. So the question really is, this is more stylistic and it's more to have architectural points of view. And I think that Diane has a point of view on this, Sean does, but Amy also has some pictures to show us, I think. Diane, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, so yeah, Amy, if you wouldn't mind putting up the renderings that you have of the assembly wing, showing the wall without the two bricks colors, and also the wall with the solid, without the two and with the two different ones. So just to recap what Kip had said, we had agreed previously in all the design work that we'd done that to SLAM's design, which included two different brick colors on exterior portions of the building. Some areas of the building are delineated in red brick and other in gray brick. And so there's some sort of playfulness of gray and red throughout the exterior of the building. And then that theme continues around to the assembly wing, where the idea seemed to be that this is a big, broad expanse of wall, and having the two different colored bricks and red at the top, gray at the bottom, and then the two merging into one another with a gradation in the middle, which just add both a playfulness on this long, broad elevation, and also tie into the colors of the bricks, tie into the exterior elevations elsewhere. So I'm in favor of keeping this pattern. I think it does bring the scale of the wall down, and I think it's more appropriate for an elementary school to have, a smaller, have the a little more detailing on the wall and a smaller scale of the wall rather than have just a big blank wall. I also think it's a bit playful and artistic and just lends more interest to the wall, which I think is in keeping with an elementary school. So I would advocate that we keep it. And then I guess, and like I said before too, I think it ties into the bricks that are being, the color of the bricks that are being used elsewhere in the building. So it's just like a complementary design element that ties into the other walls. Also, once in showing these renderings, it became clear that there are a few items that are coordinated with these colors, which is a door, which I think is a door into the service door, as well as a sill of a window that it goes into the kitchen area, that are in the color that coordinates with the gray brick. So if we were to change it to an all red wall, those would stand out and not coordinate as well. And then I know Amy had some things she'd like to say on that as well. So here you can see the rendering of the all red wall and how those two items no longer match quite as well, and how it sort of, in my opinion, just looks like a much bigger, broader, plain surface. So my feeling is that it was thought through pretty carefully and was part of the design, and I'd advocate to keep it, but certainly be interested in hearing what other committee members feel about that, and we can talk about it now.
Yeah, so thank you, Diane.
I just think it's important to
you
note.
hit everything. So, oh, sorry, Nick. I think Diane hit the important points, which to us was about really articulating this tall wall as it relates to the adjacent sidewalk and bus loop, because it is the only place where a two-story wall is at an entrance. And to Kip's point, the other two-story walls, which are around the back and side of the building, are also articulated with gray brick, breaking up that wall. And here, because this is the other tall wall, we wanted to also break up the wall with some color. And so I have some examples in addition to these renderings. This is the original rendering. This would be an all brick, all red version. And I just want to point out that because it's a rendering, some things are not colored exactly correct. For example, the coping at this canopy and at the top of the wall will be gray to match the roof screen and the metal panel, more complementary to the gray of the brick and the gray of the painted hollow metal door frames. So when we have the mock-up built, you'll be able to see the brick, the two colors of brick as they relate to one another, and the metal that shows up throughout the building, whether it be a window frame, a door frame, or the metal coping at the top of the parapet. So I do rely on the mock-ups to help clients understand, because renderings are not exact in the materiality and the colors, but we try our best. So I'm going to move forward. I have a few photos of some examples. This one is an elementary school in North Providence that SLAM completed a few years ago, which also has a gray ombre or gradient pattern, dark gray at the bottom, leading up to a red brick at the top. This is a slightly taller wall. This actually has a basement and then the gymnasium above. So in this case, it's actually almost a 3-story wall. In your case, you have just a 2-story wall, but still nice to break up with some patterning. And then we pulled some examples just quickly from online, other examples of gradient patterns in brick that, you know, throughout. So it's evident in some colors. It's evident in all gray. On the previous slide, there's red to a white. There's a dark to a white. Here's one on the left where it's a dark to red, which is very similar to ours, although they already articulate the wall with so many windows. Not sure it's necessary in their case. And here again, dark to a lighter brick. This is an example of a gradient pattern in stone on the right and in shingles actually on the left. But just to show that there's this color and breaking up a wall in a gradient pattern is seen in multiple materials, not just in brick, but and those are the examples we pulled, and here's a side by side for you. This happens to be, a cropped image of those renderings.
Amy, I was just going to say, I think it's helpful to see that picture of the Rhode Island school, because I don't think the renderings do the coloring justice for this.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree, Nick. Yeah. I mean, and the brick that's selected there is slightly different than this one, but we do have the examples of the brick that, everyone can look at. And I think that the mock-up, correct me if I'm wrong, George, there's one mock-up in progress now, and then you're going to do a mock-up with this gradient panel when you get closer to building area D, right?
George, I think you're muted.
Yes, that's correct, Amy. The mock-up out here is the academic, and then we're gonna do a similar mock-up for the assembly.
Right.
But that's not to say, I got to see if we have a wall space. If you want to try the ombre pattern on this mock-up, if that would be helpful. But there's windows, they would be broken up.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's if there's room, because we do want this mock-up to be a true mock-up for the portion of the wall that you're building sooner.
Right.
Oh, this is Sean Brown. And I had a couple of discussions with members on the ARB, for which I sit at a different time in the month. And I think the position of the ARB was, at the time of approval of the project, was that this is very trendy, and it really doesn't fall in the scope of the lines of the classic Darien New England town. And we're worried that in 5 years that this is going to be extremely trendy and not be able to be replaced with something that's more traditional to last a 50, 60-year building. So I think that, the Architectural Review Board's not in favor of this approach, and would prefer to have landscaping up along the sidewalk or some other way to, break the wall up. And I think that was one of our requests at that time, was to find a different way to delineate the length of the wall. And I think when you look at the left picture with the ombre and the right picture with the vertical lines in the brick, you can see the difference in the bricks. And I think it's a much more, long-lasting, appealing wall than the ombre on the left. That's just our ARB opinion, and probably mine as well. Thanks.
I think we did have the ombre in, during the ARB meetings. I'm sorry to hear that there's a change of heart there. I thought that the project had been approved through the ARB.
I think the project in totality was approved by the ARB, but I think there were questions that, they were asked to come back with, was what I was reminded of by our chairman, that this was not favorable, but, in totality, the project was approved. So now that we're looking at it from a building committee point of view, I think the charcoal gray, that I've seen in the photographs versus what you have in the rendering, which looks beige, that charcoal gray is a very, very heavy dark gray. I think it's too bold for this wall. I think that the classic red from sidewalk to roof line is a better appealing look with the look on the right. And from what, my discussions with the chairman of the ARB was, he feels the same way. So I think we're better off spending, putting more landscaping up along the sidewalk, and that separates, the height of the wall from the sidewalk in a sense. And just where you're looking at the brick, it basically is a one-story brick wall if you have landscaping down below.
This is Katie. I just want to weigh in. And first, I just want to say that I appreciate this item making its way onto the agenda and for everyone kind of going through this. Because this is such a big project and we do want it to be a building that lasts, I think it is important to get it right, which has always been our goal from the start. So I remember going through the design phase that when the ombre pattern was first introduced as a way to break up this large expansive wall, there were several differences happening in the design at that time that have since been changed. One major one is that originally there was an awning going, covered walkway spanning across the assembly. So when that was in place, the ombre was much less noticeable because there was already kind of a line in there. So I think that the ombre significance raises greatly without that awning. And then I also agree with the comments that Nick and Sean made about the actual colors of the brick being much more in contrast. In the pictures that are shown in this rendering, I think that that rendering is successful for many of the things that Diane says. It does look playful because the colors are very similar, so the contrast is not nearly as high. It looks more like kind of a brown and a beige. And that's true also for the examples that Amy showed of actual buildings, where there's like an entirely gray one and it's more of like a whiter gray and a darker gray. I think the ombre is more successful. When you look at the ones that are on the screen right now, where the top is basically white and the bottom is, a red or brown, it's a stark contrast. And I also agree that while it could be playful and fun, it could also be something that is becomes an eyesore because of the trendy nature. I would be against removing it. I would also just like to say that that I think that there is an in-between option. I don't think that we have to go. I like the idea of landscaping. I always do. But I also think, were we to put in a banding of sorts, that's something that has been done at the Darien Library, at the high school. I don't think that I would hope that we wouldn't have to leave it just a completely solid brick wall. But my 2 cents is also that I feel like this was something that kind of happened because we were trying to solve for other problems and then kind of just got stuck in there. And I just had the feeling that there was a lot of unease amongst the committee about maybe not being a first choice of design.
I don't know how this gets handled. Is there another vote similar to during the design phase, or I don't know what happens here, but I would agree with Katie that if you were to select all red, I would highly recommend a brick pattern be applied, whether it be using that same gray brick to match the other areas of the building and have some banding, or a pattern. Another option, which I had considered as I was putting this together last night, is in looking at the example that I showed you at McGuire School, the color that goes from dark to red really occurs much lower on the scale of the wall. And so here, rather than using one full story, or basically up to the doors, as solid is about to 6 feet, and then it starts breaking up and going all the way through red. Could we do a band of solid starting at the floor level up, say, 3 or 4 feet, and then turn to red more soon in the wall, so that there's a larger portion of red, which seems to be the preference. So, just food for thought.
Just to interrupt,
I think it would definitely require a relook if this was to come back to us.
So it seems like it's both the patterning and the color that are in discussion here. And Amy, since there's concerns that this rendering doesn't accurately reflect the colors of the brick that we have, would you say that the photograph that you're showing of the building that you had slam built previously more accurately reflects colors similar to the colors that we're going to have in terms of the gray and the red? I don't think that the stark contrast that we're seeing, I think that example with the white on the top is highly different. It's showing 3 different color bricks. It's really, I don't think that's a great example. I mean, I think that, I don't know, I might be mistaken, but this seems to be what I imagined. You know, I think the red might be a little bit darker even.
Yeah, slightly different than this example. Our red brick is not one single color. The red brick that's selected for the Oxbridge School has a gradation or a variance within itself of reds and reddish browns that lead, in my opinion, to kind of blending more with the iron ore brick, which is the gray color. So no, I would say that this example shows more of a gray going to pinkish red, solid colored brick, whereas at yours, the red brick that's been selected has more variation.
Well,
but the
here's what
tones, like this. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was just going to recommend that we have a mock-up that's being built on the site, which basically shows the red brick with all of its variations, Amy, as you point out. And it'll be done as the academic wing will be shown with a band of the gray and a band of the variated red brick. I think what we ought to do is we only have a short, I don't know how long a time, but we have a short period of time to, if we're going to change this approach. But I think just looking at a couple of people ought to see, first of all, what the mock-up looks like. See what the red brick looks like, because itself has variations, as you're pointing out. Number 2, I'll just be happy to take a group of 4 of you people and just say, hey, you guys hash it out, think it through, see what you see what you can do, and come back and just give us a couple of options, and we'll decide from there. I don't want the whole committee to sit here and spend an hour talking about it. I think it's a group of people who understand what's going on architecturally, and I don't. So I'm happy to have a couple of people work on this and with Amy and come back with a couple of ideas. Maybe banding's the right approach. I'd like to see what the mock-up of the red brick looks like, because you're right, Amy, it's a variation in reds as well. That may provide something as well. Does anybody have a better approach here?
I guess just one other concern I have, Amy maybe can address this, as to whether, Kip, you sort of present this as kind of a no cost issue. It's just like, okay, we're ready to order a different color brick. But might there be other implications, a larger planting bed, more trees, are there going to be all sorts of changes that this might lead to at this point, which, if the committee's behind it and it's a change we all want to make, then it's worth considering that. But I wonder if you could just discuss whether what you see as kind of the ripple effect, whether there may be impact on other items of the building if we made this change.
Sure. So it's hard to predict what the cost impact would be, but certainly if additional landscaping was added, that's a cost impact. Design impact, I think that it would require some time on our part to provide you with new renderings and design options. And so there would be a bit of ad service on our hourly ad service that's part of the regular contract for that. And, a change in paint color is not necessarily a cost difference, but I think we need to really look closely at how the door blends into the wall and all of that too.
But I would probably agree that I would promote the fact that if there's a time to make a change, this is appropriate time. rather than ordering more brick if we don't need it or whatever. That's all. The brick that's been ordered and manufactured already is going to be used on the academic wing, and we're going to need more of it. So that's fine. I don't think anyone's contesting that at all. Just a question of whether the ombre pattern is the right way to approach the assembly wing. That's all.
It may not be an issue either. I just wanted to mention, would there be any security concerns with additional landscaping out there, or does that need to be factored in at all? Or
Security concerns?
You blocking windows. In this case, I don't think that's the case. I think it would purely be cost and room. You know, you want to be very mindful of the planting selection when you have, when you're tight up against a building and when you're tight up against a sidewalk. So we don't want the sidewalk impacted either. And, you know, 10 years down the road by roots.
Correct. All right. Well,
So Kim, I might suggest, I'm just curious, sort of as a kind of just sense of the committee. I know that Diane said that she was in favor and Sean said that he wasn't. And I'm not. I was just curious if before we sort of created more work in a committee to like reevaluate if maybe it made sense just to see where the committee's impulse is. And if we did want to make a change, you know, maybe then a couple of people explore what might it mean in terms of design fees to explore a banding, or what might we be looking at in terms of additional landscaping. I just wonder if that might be a little more efficient. I'm just curious if we have a consensus or not.
well, the problem with that, Katie, is I got 3 people I got actually 4 people out of 10 that are missing today from the meeting. So I'd like to be able to why don't I just poll everybody by email and see whether there's enough of an issue to have a small group relook at this issue. But I can't, with 4 people missing, I feel like I'm not getting everybody's at least consideration.
That makes sense and sounds good, Kip. Thank you.
So what I'll do is I'll send out an email to everybody and say, you know, do you think it's worthy of our time to re-look at the issue of just the ombre pattern on the assembly wing? That's all we're talking about here. Am I defining it correctly? I think so.
I think so. Thanks. That would be simple.
Okay, I'll do that. Then we can proceed with that rather than, we won't, Amy, you don't have to take your pencil out of the holder yet. So let's find out whether we have an issue to be discovered, to be worked on or not. Okay?
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for bringing that up and for that discussion. Are there any other matters to bring before the committee today? Is there any public comment?
Kip?
See, yes.
Kip, hi, this is Al. Good morning from DC. I'm traveling, but I just wanted to check that we haven't anything else outstanding for the state at this point. Communication, I can talk to Amy again and Dave offline, but I just want to make sure that if there's any other communications regarding any of the changes or otherwise that we have those ready to go. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah. We have a package on your desk to be signed, and as soon as you do that, Mike's going to make sure that Jennifer Chernisky gets it, and it gets back to George, gets to FLAM, and then it gets to the state.
That sounds like a plan. Thank you.
Okay. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. No one. Katie moves. Do I have a second?
Second by Sean.
Second. Got it. All in favor, raise your hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. Have a pleasant summer.